So, what is 412 Food Rescue?
412 Food Rescue is an organization that intends to prevent perfectly edible food from entering the food waste stream. So we work with grocery stores, restaurants, food distributors, and the food that is going to go to waste, we end up redirecting to nonprofit partners that support those who are food insecure.
Okay.
At this point in time, on a global scale, 40% of food that gets produced goes to waste.
40%?
40%.
That's a global number.
Yes, and a lot of that is fresh food as well. So we really have an emphasis on fresh food. 1 in 7 Americans are hungry. So clearly there's a large disconnect right there.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to that, in the U.S., the second largest emitter of methane, which is questionably the most harmful greenhouse gas, is food waste. So putting food into landfills is creating an enormous amount of methane. And if we can redirect this food to people who need food, we really solve that problem for all parties involved.
Yeah, that last part, I did not know that.
Yeah. And I mean, just the cost of transporting food as well. The cost of transporting food that never gets consumed is pretty insurmountable.
Wow. Now, are you part of a national organization? Is this an organically local entity that you guys started?
This is organically local. So the way that it works is we have a mobile app. It's kind of like the Uber of food rescue, if you will. So you go onto the app, you see if there's any food rescues available. It might say there's a pickup at X restaurant or Giant Eagle or wherever it may be. You click on that rescue to claim it, and it's going to pair it up with a nonprofit partner that is reasonably close. Our operations team will have planned that out on the donor's behalf.
Okay.
And they try to make it relatively close in distance. They try to make sure that the food that is going to that nonprofit partner makes sense. And then somebody claims that rescue, gets in their car, picks it up, drops it off, and then you're done. So the average rescue's taken you maybe 45 minutes of your time.
Wow.
So far, we've rescued over 6 million pounds of food. As far as a national scale goes, is we are selling our technology to other cities. So right now, our technology is being used in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Cleveland, San Francisco, and there's a couple other cities in the works right now.
Okay, so the basis of what you're doing is based around technology then?
Yes.
You folks are basically connecting the parties efficiently.
Yeah, so we're a nonprofit organization, but we're also a technology company.
Okay, that puts a whole new spin on it for me. So you're not housing the food. You're not bringing the food to a collection location. You're basically helping folks identify a surplus. Yeah. And you're connecting it with those who can need it directly.
Exactly. And food banks do a great job with non-perishable items. That's why we really have a large emphasis on fresh food, because the difficulty there is to move fresh food. Typically, you need a refrigerated truck. That's enormous expense. And by the time you get the food from point A to B, if you're doing it on a large scale, some of the food might not be edible anymore.
Okay.
That's why we break it down into a small scale. So if the produce stand down the street has an extra box of broccoli that they know they're not going to sell, they can contact us. We'll link it up with a nonprofit partner, and then you or I could get in our cars, drive to that produce stand, pick up that box of food, drive to the nonprofit partner. It'll all link you up with Apple Maps, Google Maps, Waze, whatever you use, and direct you there. You get to go to the nonprofit partner, whether it's a housing authority, a Salvation Army, whatever it may be.
Okay.
And you get to have that kind of a good feeling of bringing this food directly to those who need it.
So that's how the public can directly engage themselves, like we talked a little bit off camera. The difference between giving money, which is always needed as well, but participating and giving of your time and your efforts.
Yeah, and it's cool too, because I think everybody wants to do good. Everybody wants to volunteer, but a lot of us work multiple jobs. A lot of us don't have much free time to find volunteer work. And this is a really autonomy supportive way. So you can turn on our notifications, or you can just hop on the app whenever you want, see if anything's available, and just go do it. It might take you 45 minutes, might take you an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's the app obviously is available, I'm guessing, at Apple and Google. Is that correct? Yep. And they just type in 412. It's
actually the Food Rescue Hero app.
Food Rescue Hero app. Okay. And they just log in, and just so I can for myself further understand how this works. In the app itself, once I log in, once I register, I'm assuming, you can, at any point in time that you have free time, you can log into the app, or you can look at the app for notifications of of available food at certain locations. Is that correct?
Yeah. So when you're signing up for the app, it's going to ask you to go through a notification setting when you may be available to do food rescue, your location, and it's going to direct at that kind of information. And why don't I just show you the app real quick?
Sure.
I think this might be helpful.
Absolutely.
Whenever I'm trying to explain this to people, I find the way easier is to open the app. So yeah, you can see there's a couple one-time rescues available here.
Oh, okay.
So we have the map there. I can look right here. This one's in East Liberty, going from Riverbend Foods to Meals on Wheels. We can view the rescue, and you can see the route that food needs to be taken on.
So the public is being of service by just transferring, being a courier of this food.
Yeah, and we also have a couple large trucks as well. The cool thing is last year was the first year that a higher percentage of food was transferred by volunteers in their own vehicles than our truck.
Okay, and that's ultimately what we're going for.
Yeah.
The goal is for volunteers to cover the entire load, ultimately.
Definitely. Yep.
Is that right? So when I agree to do that, then obviously that route comes off the app, so there's no chance of duplicate people showing up to the same courier.
Yep.
Okay.
And another cool thing that we implemented in January is we do have weekly rescues. So there's certain locations, Giant Eagles are a great example of it.
Sure.
Bruegger's Bagels, they do it a lot, where they know they're going to have a rescue same time every week, maybe multiple times a week. And there's often volunteers that like the routine, and they're into the idea of every Tuesday at noon, I'm going to go do this one rescue.
I think for business people like myself, being a realtor, and my schedule's kind of jumbled, but if I could put something in there at a certain time every week,
right,
this is where I'm going to go and do what I'm going to do. It probably is easier for me. I'm sure a lot of people as well.
A lot of people like it too, because then you build up some sort of a relationship with, like, rapport with the donor and the recipient.
Okay.
So there are times when you do a food rescue and the directions might not be super clear. Let's say you have a downtown rescue, you're going to a restaurant, might be a little bit dicey figuring out where to park or what to do.
Sure.
So if you have that routine built in and you know what you're doing each week, sometimes that helps out.
How far do you folks spread out? I mean, is it all through southwestern PA? Is it?
So we're out in so technically we have 724 food rescue as well. So that's Westmoreland County.
Okay.
So we're out there. We're out in Beaver and Butler. That's kind of the furthest we spread out for our operation.
Okay.
And then, like I said, we have our other sister programs in other cities.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a good part of southwestern PA then.
Definitely.
For sure.
And it's been interesting seeing how that works, because I do feel that the model is very applicable to urban areas. It makes the distances much shorter between donor and end user. But I am starting to find out that rural areas actually do have a need for this, and that people are willing to make much further drives because they're just used to driving further regularly anyways.
Sure. That's all. As realtors, that's all we seem to do is drive. So we'd probably be a good candidate for that,
right,
too. Talk a little bit about just the statistics in general. What the last statistic you gave me, was it 1 out of every 7 Americans is hungry?
Yes. So food insecure. I'm not really sure where their next meal is going to be coming from. And then, yeah, it's a pretty wild number to think about, and really puts it into perspective when you think about 1/7 of our population. It's and the fact that there is so much food that is going to waste on a regular basis is not only is it appalling, it's just confusing. It's puzzling.
It is confusing. Yeah. If you try to take the emotion out of it, it is extremely confusing to me. The donors, give me an example. Obviously, you named some big ones, Giant Eagle, Bruegger's Bagels. Is there other chains and so forth that are on board with you?
Yeah, so some of our big ones, we have Gordon Food Services, Cisco, a lot of restaurants throughout Pittsburgh. We have also a lot of like catering companies.
I bet, yeah.
So a lot of times, and there are certain rules that get put into effect. So if it's a catered event, if the food is on the line at any point in time, it's no longer able to be moved.
Okay.
With that said, there's going to be a large area in the back of backup food that was intended to go out on the catering line at some point in time. That food is totally okay to be distributed.
Sure.
As far as other really large donors, it's mostly local organizations. So East End Food Co-op is real big. Consumers Produce, Sunfresh, those are all based in the Strip District.
Okay.
Those are some of the really big ones. We have Trader Joe's,
yeah.
a few locations.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you see do you see a growth in there? Do you see more and more organizations coming on?
Definitely. We've been expanding pretty quick, especially on the Giant Eagle front. Been getting more and more of their branches on board. Giant Eagle, as of a few months ago, officially has donated over 1 million pounds of food.
1 million pounds?
Yeah.
Wow. How many years you folks have been in business? Doing this work?
About 5 years. The mobile app's only been around for about a year, though.
How'd you do it before the mobile app was around?
It was a lot of word of mouth and a lot of just engaging with our operations team. That was before my time at the organization.
Okay.
I'm relatively new there. I'm post mobile app.
Did you come in to help get the mobile app running?
No, so I'm our partner experience manager.
Okay.
So my job is to maintain relationships with our stakeholders, develop engagement, because it is a process where your food donors, your volunteers, your financial donors, if they're not getting the tender loving care and relationship building, they can kind of drop off a bit. Definitely with volunteers.
Okay.
Not every food rescue goes perfect. There are times that a volunteer may go to a food donor and there might not be a rescue available that day. And that's a pretty crappy experience.
Sure.
Sometimes it takes courage to get up and actually make that leap to do a volunteer. So you go out there, you do it, you get to the food donor, and there's nothing to even donate. And that's not a great experience. So being able to engage with those volunteers when that happens and being able to encourage them and show appreciation for what they are contributing at that point in time is pretty important and goes a long way for retaining volunteers.
Sure, to try to mitigate the disappointment, probably.
Exactly.
Especially if it's happening on their first or second time, using the service or volunteering period.
Right.
Huh. All right. The what are you seeing in regards to the not the donors, but the, what do you call them? The donors and the
we normally call them end users.
End users. Okay, so I'm guessing obviously Salvation Army. I don't know what else besides Salvation Army there'd be.
Yeah, there's a lot of housing authorities.
Okay.
There's
like food kitchens.
Or like low-income housing
Okay.
areas that have kitchens.
Okay.
As a part of their operations.
Okay.
So it's all nonprofit partners.
Right.
Because there are complications if you were to deliver food directly towards a family.
Sure.
So you need the food to go to somebody that is ServSafe certified. You need to have the certification that they can handle food and know when certain food maybe is not appropriate to be served.
Folks, I found you folks through Instagram. So obviously you folks are very much using social media to get your word out. Is that correct? To encourage others to get involved and to be aware of who you are and what you're doing.
Definitely. I mean, that's part of being a technology company as well, is being able to market yourself out there and get people to download the app and use the app. And we have a great marketing team. Shout out to Becca. She's done a great job at branding us, great job at reaching out and really being strategic about ways to get the largest audience involved, because our demographic of volunteers is pretty diverse.
Is it?
Anyone from college kids to retirees. We had a volunteer the other day in the office. She's an Uber and Lyft driver and does food rescue in between Uber and Lyft rides.
That's convenient. That has to be maybe a potential good section of the society to look for.
Totally.
Volunteers. They're already out there doing their thing.
Already driving.
And they're already familiar going from point A to point B, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. The you mentioned that the demographic of volunteers is wide. That was one of the questions I was coming in here to ask you today. So that's very encouraging to me, especially considering that where I'm at 53, you go 63, 70. I think those great folks are somewhat engaged on the web, but you don't have to be engaged directly on the web to be a volunteer with your organization. And that's interesting. And you mentioned before that, and again, I'm kind of flabbergasted. The app's only been around a year. I'm trying to wrap my head around how everybody communicated to get everything done before the app.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was email based, and we would do kind of a blast maybe the night before of what rescues were going to be available and who could accept them. But yeah, the app obviously was a complete game changer. We were using technology on our back end to organize these rescues and keep track of everything. But at the same time, just we didn't have the option for anybody to just claim a rescue at any point in time. And that's obviously advanced our operations substantially.
So is there a nerve center that actually connects, the provider and those in need? I mean, I would think, who's back there determining?
We have a small operations team that's placing each donation.
Okay.
So there's certain nonprofits that are going to only be able to use certain kinds of food.
Right.
There's certain nonprofits that only are going to be able to accept so much food. And when a donation comes in, our operations team is getting on the phone, calling nonprofits up, and seeing if they want to accept this food.
Okay.
We obviously are trying to disperse that out as much as possible to give everybody some love.
Yeah, and there's obviously logistics involved as well too. But that's a daily event then. When you get a call that there's a surplus, then your folks have to get on. You have to make the phone calls to determine where it's going to go, who needs it, who can use it, and then obviously logistics of getting it there. So
yeah, our call center is very engaged all day.
Wow.
Yeah, and obviously we're looking towards more automated ways to do some of this, just for scalability purposes. But at the same time, that human interaction is pretty important. I mean, all of our nonprofit partner contacts and all of our donors know our operations team.
Okay.
And that's meaningful.
Yeah. You can do that at your size right now, but as you continue to grow too, there's obviously some management involved as well. But that's exciting to me that it's exciting to me how fast you guys have grown. 5 years, is that right? And only 1 year with user technology, anyways, right?
Yeah.
That's impressive, my friend.
Yeah, I certainly can't take much credit for that. I'm new on the team, but
okay.
Yeah. And
a little bit about your background. You said you just come to Pittsburgh a couple years ago?
Yeah, I have been here for 2 years as of October.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm from Buffalo, New York.
All right.
Was playing in a touring band for a few years, so
what's wrong with that?
Similar line of work that you were in, I guess.
Yeah.
Eventually,
you had the fun part though. You were actually performing.
Yeah,
I was providing instruments.
You weren't spending over 100 days a year on the road, though.
No, I was not. No, there's times I probably wish I was, but I definitely wasn't.
Yeah, so I got kind of burnt out on that, and just wanted a change of industry. And my partner, she ended up getting a job in Pittsburgh. I was looking for a change of scenery, change of career, and came down to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and background in technology?
Sort of. I mean, I went to school for music business, and a lot of that when I was in school was technology centered.
Yeah. And
I got a job for a tech company when I moved here, and that's kind of was my real entry into the tech world. And then I brought some of that along with me to 412 Food Rescue only a few months ago.
All right.
Yeah.
And again, for people who really want to, including myself, who want to volunteer and get involved in this, what's the first step?
Download the app.
That's it. It all starts with the app itself, and they can register on the app.
Yep, you can go to the App Store, Google Play, and download the app. You can also go to our website, 412foodrescue.org, and get some more information on what we do. We do some other programming as well, but where we're looking for volunteers right now really is in the food rescue department.
Okay.
And a lot of areas around here as well. I know that we have a couple areas in Moon Township that could use a little bit of extra volunteer engagement out here. And yeah, we're looking for more volunteers.
And primarily it's on a delivery front. You're the courier of this food from those who are providing it to those who need it.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Exactly.
All right. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you for driving all the way out here.
Yeah, of course. So if you ever have some free time and want to throw a box of bananas and tomatoes in the back of your car and bring them to somebody who needs them, we'd love to have you.
Yep. You hear that, friends? 412 Food Rescue. Download the app. Google Play. Is it still called iTunes?
App Store.
App Store.
Yeah.
On the App Store. It all starts and ends. And it's not called the 412 Food Rescue app. It's called
Food Rescue Hero app.
Food Rescue Hero. Food Rescue Hero. It all starts there. Do it. Make it feel good. Thank you, buddy.
Appreciate it.